like your calls on this one. Should you bring up your children to be smartphone free? More than 100,000 people have signed a pledge which says they'll wait until the children are at least at the end of year 9, which is 13, before they give them a smartphone. Benedict Cumberbatch and Paloma Faith, Wicks, Mylene, Klass and Rachel Stevens are just some of the famous faces who've added their names to the phone-free childhood pledge. But do you think it's realistic to bring up your children without a smartphone these days? 0207 862 2222, that's the number. Do give us a call. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Maybe your children or grandchildren have access to smartphones and you are concerned about it. So joining us now to talk about this is Claire Ferneyhough, who's a founding partner of the campaign group Smartphone Free Childhood. Claire, it's good to have you on the programme. You're the mum of an 8 and a 10-year-old, and I believe you're not going to give them a phone until they're 16. Does this make you very different from all your friends?
I think if you asked me that question a year ago, then the answer would be definitely yes. But I think things have changed a lot in the last year, as we've seen. The reason we set up Smartphone Free Childhood is because we didn't want our children to be the only ones without a smartphone. But we felt like actually we didn't have a choice, and we wanted to be able to have a choice. But things are changing, as you've said. We've got 120,000 parents now who've signed our pact, all to delay giving a smartphone. So things are changing really, really quickly. And it's amazing to see that actually a lot of children are going to be joining secondary school this year with just a simple phone, which we think is more than enough for calling and texting your parents. And it doesn't need to be any more than that.
I mean, 24 million people and rising have watched the Netflix drama Adolescence with mounting horror as they tuned in. And I think people had imagined, sort of, that their children were kind of relatively okay in their bedrooms at night. They were sleeping, they were dreaming, they were all right. And from Adolescence, it just crystallised in people's minds the fact that with a smartphone in their hands, they can be targeted at any moment. They can be watching God knows what. They can be contacted by God knows who. And as parents, you really do not, unless you're keeping these very, very strict controls on the phone and checking every 5 minutes, have the faintest idea what's going on. And it really put the fear of God into parents. So lots of parents say, Claire, well, my kid has to have a smartphone because if he or she doesn't have one, they will be left out, socially excluded, bullied for not having a phone. They will feel completely out of the swim if I don't give them a phone. What do you say to the parents who say that to you?
We would say club together with the people around you, with your child's peer group. That's what we're seeing across the UK now, and actually beyond. Our movement's spread to 40 different countries now. But it's about your child's peer group, isn't it? It's about the friends that they are going on to secondary school with. And if you can make a pact with those parents and say, look, shall we all do this together? Let's delay, so that actually they can just have a Nokia or, a simple brick phone and contact each other. That's all they need. Because what you said, adolescence has really struck a chord, hasn't it? Yeah. And I think the reason is because a lot of parents haven't realised the extent about what is happening. And we hear from our community children being shown violent pornography at school. Head teachers are telling us that children are coming up saying, I've just been sent this. They are seeing beheading videos. There's catfishing. There was that horrific story a few months ago. A man in Northern Ireland targeted 3,500 children. Only 4 of them ever told an adult. So the extent about what's happening is actually really hard to believe, because when we look at our algorithms, it's very different. We're only now really waking up to what children are being exposed to. And, you can do this. We can change norms. We've seen 120,000 people. You don't need to feel alone in this. And it's a very empowering thing to be able to do. So I'd really encourage people to kind of join our movement and
Michelle,
come
do you feel
join
as
us.
if you hadn't quite grasped what you might be exposing your children to in giving them what they most want in the world? And of course, what we adults love as soon as we become dependent. The smartphone that we can never take our eyes away from. I've got mine tucked under a cushion. Yeah. God forbid I'd be broadcasting live on television without my phone right next to me. And I'm someone who had a Nokia brick phone until the pandemic.
Yeah, my first phone was a Nokia. Yeah, I remember that.
But I never had a smartphone because I didn't want one. And but then when my grandkids were away and I couldn't see them, I got the smartphone and then I fell right down the well just like everybody else.
Yes, I'm definitely down that well. And my kids are older now.
Yeah.
As in like the 13 and 11. And I've already given them a smartphone. They've already got one. That's what they have. We police it as much as we possibly can, especially with our youngest, with AJ. Had my children been younger, I may consider signing something like that and be on board, but they're not.
Do you
They're
have
a
all
bit
the
older
parental
now.
controls on?
Yeah, we have parental controls.
Yeah.
AJ doesn't have certain apps on his phone. He can message his friends. If they've got a number or an email, they could do text messages and iMessage. Faith has a little bit more leeway from there. No phones after 9 o'clock. You know, the usual restrictions. Me, AJ,
You say usual,
and
but
Dad,
I don't know how usual they are.
Well, I
So
don't
does she
know.
have the
Yeah,
phone in her room
exactly.
overnight, or do you take the phone away at 9 o'clock?
AJ's, we take it away. Faith puts it on airplane mode. She uses it also for school apps, for homework.
Yeah.
AJ uses his for mathematics apps as well. And so there's a little bit of everything that they use. They use it to ring me when they leave school because they walk to the car or they walk home. Faith's now obviously given a little bit more leeway from our perspective. She goes out shopping by herself. We have find your location on. You know, we can't do that with the normal brick phone. We have it on the smartphone, right? So I wouldn't be able to have that facility with my children had they not have a smartphone. I think there are lots to be said for not giving them early. Had I done it all over again, I might have done it differently.
All right,
Definitely.
let's take calls on this because Deborah's on the line in Oxfordshire. Deborah, what do you think? Do you think it's important to delay?
Yes, it's very important to delay. And in fact, I listened to Sir William Stewart, who didn't recommend that we had given our children any kind of mobile phone until they were 16. I'm a slightly older mum. I had my son when I was 30, and I had two girls when I was 39 and 40. Sadly, I lost my middle child, Jenny Fry, and that was because she was allergic to Wi-Fi in the school and also smartphones. And the uniform policy changed in her school, and the children could sneak their mobile devices in their pockets into the classroom, and she was appalled to find some children watching porn under the table. I remember that conversation very clearly when she came home one day. But I've been campaigning for almost 10 years now to wake up parents, government, the education department. We have to have a huge conversation. We need to protect our children. We were protected when we grew up. We had a watershed. We weren't allowed to watch adult pornography films in a cinema. So it's extremely important that we now protect our children, our grandchildren, from these devices. And I'm not against technology. It's absolutely amazing, but we're not using it wisely around our children.
Deborah, thank you so much, and thank you for ringing. And obviously, deepest condolences for your terrible loss. I do appreciate it, and I can see why you would have a fire to make sure that parents realise what they might be exposing their children to. Thank you so much. Let's move on to Kath, who's on the line in West Yorkshire. Your children do have smartphones. They got them at the end of year 6. Kath, how old were they at the end of year 6?
End of year 6, they were 11.
Okay, and what do you think about that? Are you happy with that, or do you wish you hadn't given them the phones?
Yes, I was happy with it because I could. They're now 17 and 19.
Right.
And I was happy with it because I knew I could get in touch with them when they were going to school because they had to go on the bus to get to school. When they went round to their friends, I could get in touch with them and vice versa as well. If I was late from work, I could tell them.
But of course, you could have done that on a brick phone as well, couldn't you? On an old-fashioned phone, you wouldn't have needed to give them a smartphone. Were you concerned about things that they might see or people who might contact them? Did you put all the parental controls on, or do you feel as if you didn't really quite understand what you might be?
I didn't use all the parental controls because, believe it or not, I had a brick phone and they had iPhones. So I didn't know how to use the technology until they came along and they showed me how to use the technology.
Yeah, you're not the only one that I know who doesn't know how to put the blinking. I tried to put mine on Do Not Disturb this morning.
Yeah, no, Faith often tells me how to use it.
Absolutely get that, Kath. Thank you. Let's go to Helen in Warwickshire. What do you think, Helen? Do you think parents don't realise what they might be exposing their kids to?
I'm not really sure whether they realise or not, but I am so delighted with the young lady that's on that is a group together to protect our children. I'm absolutely appalled at what is allowed to get through, both on television and on the telephones. And after speaking only about telephones this morning, I am thrilled that parents are at long last waking up to knowing we've got to protect the young. They don't need a phone that gives them everything. They need a phone that they can phone home if there's a problem. That's all they need. If you like, the old dial-up phone, obviously we're going to keep up with technology, but I really am so pleased that at long last we're starting to protect the young from these
It's a very difficult
morons.
one, you know, Helen, because there's tremendous peer pressure and there's also the fact that people are absolutely addicted to their phones and have fallen head over heels in love with them and think that the best thing they can do for their beloved children is give them a smartphone. This is a very difficult one, but this is maybe the tip of the iceberg, and let's hope it spreads. Thanks to Helen very much indeed, and thank you for your calls. Thanks very much to Claire, of course. Before we go to the break, let's